Hi guys, it's Coach Pat from the Rant. Before we get to the Rant, let's talk a little bit about our sponsor, Premier Football Consulting. These guys do a great job of placing football players throughout the country at great programs from Division 1 to Division 3. No one does it any better. But instead of me telling you about it, how about you hear from the CEO, Nico Pappas? Nico, tell us all about it.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Rant. My name is Nico Pappas. I'm Coach Pappas' son. I'm also the director and one of the founders here at Premier Football Consulting. Our team at PFC has been around for 23 years and is one of the largest football consulting groups in the country, as we've helped over 1,000 players and their family navigate this competitive, confusing, and costly recruiting process in an effort to find a great college fit. Our team consists of 15 former players and coaches that have experience at the FBS level, the FCS and Ivy League level, as well as the small college high academic landscape. Since the advent of the transfer portal, the NIL, and in the post days of COVID, this college recruiting process has become crazier than ever. It's confusing, it's competitive, and most importantly, it's costly. The PFC has stayed on top of all of these trends and has the ability to leverage our experience, our knowledge, and most importantly, our connections at the college level to give our players a huge edge in what will be a very competitive process. So if your son desires to play college football, I highly recommend that you get the help of an expert. When you go to buy a house, you look to hire a real estate agent. It's the same thing with the college recruiting process. When you are about to enter it, you should seek the help of an expert, and that's where the PFC comes in. So if you would be interested in a quick free consultation call, feel free to reach out to me at 617-308-7801 or shoot me an email at nico@premierfootballconsulting.com. I look forward to hearing from you. Thank you.
Thank you, Nico, and thank you, Coach Pap. Now, on to the podcast. Cue the music, baby.
Hey, welcome, guys. Welcome to our end of the year holiday edition of The Rant. I'm Coach Pap, co-hosting with the great Danny V. A little under the weather today, Danny V.
Ricola is my best friend right now.
I'll tell you what. You know what? No IR for you, buddy. You battled right through. It was
That's
unbelievable.
That's
And
it. True grit. I'm a true Detroit Lion. All grit.
We're going to talk about that, buddy. And we have the great producer, the number one producer in all the world, the great Damian Passeja. Dame, how was Christmas, buddy?
Oh, it was great. We actually got a white Christmas. I feel like the last 3, maybe 4 years, we haven't had any snow even come close to Christmas. So it was nice. It was nice to see some snow on the ground. I'm going to get annoyed of it in a week, but, just move on through it.
And the big question, what'd you get the girlfriend? What'd you get the girlfriend for Christmas?
I got her a Lions jersey, believe it or
not.
I think that was the best present I got her in like the 2 years we've been.
Is she from Detroit?
Yeah, yes, she's from Detroit.
Oh, she's the best. You got to get her on one time.
Yeah, I know.
She's coming on. Only if the Lions win it all. Guys, we're gonna have a lot of fun. This is gonna be an end of the year deal for us. We're gonna kind of wrap everything up. We're gonna talk about high school, college, and pro football. And our guest tonight is the great Mike Uva, two-time Emmy Award-winning sportscaster. Originally a Peabody guy. And so Mike's going to come on and share with us a bunch of stuff, inside stuff, I hope. So it's going to be great. So, Dame, if you want to start us off, let's get to work.
Yeah, guys, let's go right to it. I mean, we covered it ever since episode 1, guys. High school football. Let's give a quick recap of any special players, any teams. Just a quick shout out, guys. Let's talk about the 2024 season.
Go ahead, Danny. What stands out, buddy?
I mean, I think, there were some milestones, obviously. I mean, you start with, Justin Marcus from Fairhaven, who broke the state record for career touchdowns with 110 is impressive. And then you got Bo McCormick at BB&N, his, 6,699 yards is the new standard. I mean, great career there. And then you look at the quarterback at Hudson, Jake Attaway. We believe it's a state record. We don't know for sure because, this is one of these states where they don't believe in keeping records all the time, which is kind of frustrating. But in any event, he had a career where he combined passing and rushing, 147 touchdowns.
Unbelievable.
Which is unbelievable. And he capped it off with a Super Bowl title. And then, it's not just the players. You got coaches' milestones. Ken LaChapelle, 400 wins. It's funny because Mike Redding, who got his 300th this year, when we talked to him, he says, when you put it in perspective, I'm only one of 9 guys to have 300 wins, and I'm still 100 behind this guy, which tells you. And then we had, the 200 win club. We had 4 men. You had Timmy Morris at Melrose, David Woods. You had Jeff Cormier at Auburn, who didn't even know he had 199 wins until we emailed him. And then you have Mike Dobzinski over at Wachusett. So 200 wins, pretty impressive.
Danny, you are the man with the high school sports in Massachusetts, and especially in our case, the football stuff. And again, a little bit of a pet peeve of mine is there are no true record keepers, and it falls on your lap to do it.
Frustrating.
Yeah, it's frustrating because then people take it out on you, and you're just doing the whole state a favor for doing this. But
what we've done is, we've run it like in August every year, and I put it right out there. I said, look, if you have somebody who's not on the list, please, but give me, let me be able to prove it. I don't want somebody to email me and say, hey, my friend Joe ran for 600 yards in a game. It's like, well, let me see it. But coaches are pretty good. Because they want to see it. And now you're seeing, I think, with the rushing, I think the rushing numbers tend to be going down, but it's the passing numbers that are going up.
Yeah. And it's, and like I said, Attaway kind of snuck up on me, the whole deal. But truly fantastic numbers with that. You're right in the trenches. I watch the tape. I see live games for 2 or 3 weekends. I'm up here. You know what? I was impressed with the Super Bowls. I was impressed with the NEPSAC Super Bowls as well. Yep. Some really good talent. I think the talent is pretty high right now in Massachusetts, which is great. So I really enjoyed that. I enjoyed watching Shaw Sheen. And we had Al Costabile on talking about how these guys would play in big games and the next day go to their work sites and get to work. Sure. So I really enjoyed what I enjoyed, Danny, was I loved having Al on and Coach Flower down at Zavarian and Coach St. Pierre. And Mike Redding. I really enjoyed having the high school guys on it. So for me, it was really, really, really fun. Was there anything frustrating during the year that kind of got you?
Well, the one thing that I've gotten, and it seems to be, it's not even the kids. It's just like the attitude of grownups. If their kid isn't getting enough ink, if their kid is not getting enough stats, they're always looking to vent. It's either our fault or it's the coach's fault. And I think if some of these kids actually realize what their parents were sending for email, they'd be embarrassed.
Of course. Yeah.
Some of them are like, it's like, stop being delusional. And, I mentioned it in the paper, and I got tons of feedback from coaches and athletic directors. And they said, you don't even know half of it. I said, I'm sure I don't. I get it once in a while. I'm sure you're in the trenches every day, which is why more and more coaches and athletic directors are bailing.
You know what? And quite frankly, it's a result of everyone gets a trophy. You know what I mean? And
you're right.
This is a big ass state with a lot of people in it. And a lot of kids play football, and it can only be one all-scholastic team. You know what I mean? Right. They can only be so many MVPs and so on and so forth. And these kids have all gotten trophies all the way through. And God bless you. I see online. I try to.
I got ripped last week. The Coaches Association picked their super team. They're yelling at me. I'm like, A, I'm not a coach. B, I'm not even in their association. And C, I put it out in the first sentence. This is picked by the coaches, not the media. And they still freaking get pissed off. How could you miss this kid? I didn't miss anyone. I'm not there. You can't make it up.
Yeah, I tell you.
Some of my coworkers, they say, no way that this. I have to send them the emails, and they write back. This is ridiculous. What are you gonna do?
What do you do? My frustration continues with, and again, it's I'm not ripping on the MIAA. I throw the privates in there. They just can't get
the organizational part of it together. You know, we've talked about it, and you on previous shows have had some great ideas about making Division I, you know, really kind of a cool spot to be, and then everyone fall afterwards. And in the privates, they're still messed up. And you know, in my old league, the ISL is just a disaster with right now only 5 teams in the ISL Lodge. So that's going to be cake. So that's my.
You're saying 2 more left?
Yeah, well, right now, 2 have petitioned out. Lawrence Academy and Governors have petitioned out. They say they want to go down, and again, it just it doesn't. They're not going to be able to have a league. I mean, they could become the big 3. They could become what New Bedford, Durfee.
Right. You know what's going to happen now is the problem is, you know, with the ISL say 5. You know, they're not going. Those smallest, they're not going to want to play them.
No, of course, Danny. No, listen, I deal with these guys all the time, and they call me and they say, "Pap, what do you think?" The solution that they have come up, and it's on the table right now, is a 4-division New England. There's 44 teams that play 11-man football in the private schools in New England, and make it 4 divisions.
11
each. I mean, you can, maybe go 10 here or 12 there, but you know what? But it's going to take a commissioner to do that, Danny. But it's on the table. It's on the table, and there's a chance for it to pass, a good chance. Let's hope that's what happened. Yeah. Because I don't want to see these guys. They talked about playing home and aways. Oh, crazy. What a pain in the ass. Crazy. So anyways, all right, well, we're done with that. Let's talk. What do you think, Dame? Look, want to talk some college ball?
Yeah. Let's go right into college ball. I mean, the regular season's all done. Pretty much bowl season's kind of done. We still got the playoffs left. It's been a great season, especially for one team I'd like to call out from last weekend. The Notre Dame Fighting Irish beat Indiana. Pap. I don't know if you forgot, but we had this little debate on who was going to win. Notre Dame won. Indiana, of course, lost. I just wanted to highlight it out before we got
buried. You didn't lose another bet, did you?
Of course I did. I lose all the bets. Except for Navy in the bowl games. Those are my guys.
There you go.
Danny, we want to kick it off, college ball.
I mean, to me, I'm looking forward to the next couple of days because I think you've weeded some of them out. The pretenders are out. I think you got the big boys in there now. I think you're going to see some. I can't imagine you're not going to see some great football. I will say it's disappointing when you see what happened with some of these schools. BC, a couple of their top players opted out. And then you get the Miami situation with Cam Ward. I mean, and he breaks the record. And at halftime, he says, I think I've had enough. See you later. I mean, if you're a pro team, I mean, how do you not look at this? He's going to be a top pick. And he may be a great kid. I think he's certainly talented. I think he's the best quarterback out there, not named Archie Manning.
Yeah.
But I think he's good. But I think you're going to get some of these old school guys who don't like it, will think, oh, you let your team down. Whereas the younger guys, they get it. It's a business decision.
Let's go back to the original thought here. I have loved college football. I think college football has made a giant step, a leap this season, just implementing the college football playoff system. I just think week after week, it just was more and more exciting. All those SC teams battling it out, the Big Ten getting it done. And I know, Danny, you're going to talk a little bit about some of your frustrations with the seeding at the end, and I agree with you. But I think that on the national picture, quite frankly, and I'm a huge NFL guy. I've always liked the NFL better than college football, but there were weeks this year that I actually looked more forward to watching the college football than the NFL. And this is going to be one of the weeks as well. I know that NFL playoffs will be coming afterwards, but the advent of the playoff system as a whole has been great. Danny, you and I both have our opinions about the seedings and how they're chosen and how many teams. But for overall, I thought it was great.
I mean, it's certainly better than what they had. There's no doubt about it. I mean, I wouldn't mind seeing them go to true 16 teams and just go from there.
Yeah.
But, it's a step in the right direction. No question about it.
I love the 16 games because I think what you're going to get,
1-16 is going to be, I mean, it's going to be a bloodbath probably. I mean, this is what it is, but you get 8 and 9. I mean, you get 7 and 10 in the home stadium stuff. I think it's good. I agree with you. I think the 6, and I think it will go to 16 for sure. I mean, locally, I know you're not. Well, let's go to the real positive. I mean, UConn had a hell of a year.
Yeah.
And Jim Moore has done a great job.
Incredible. I'm surprised he's still there.
Yeah, I am too. I mean, you know what? He's older. I mean, I'm not sure. People are trying to poach him. UConn, I saw they re-upped him for like 2.6 a year. I mean, so he's not on food stamps. We could say that.
Right.
But he's done a hell of a job.
Absolutely.
Your backyard team over there, Boston College. All of a sudden, they lose the bowl game, and they're all ripping Billy O'Brien, saying they were better. They had a better record last year, and they won a bowl game.
I mean, you lose. You arguably your two best players opted out.
Yeah, right.
I mean, and that defensive end is really, really good.
He's really good. Yeah,
very good.
Really good.
And I hate, I'm not a fan of giving BC compliments, but I got to admit, one of their offensive linemen, Christian Mahogany, got his first start with the Lions. He was tremendous.
Danny,
I don't know how he lasted till the 6th round. I mean,
he was short. He's short. Yeah. I mean, but I remember Chris Shea and those guys telling me about how tough he was.
Yeah.
How tough he was. And boy, did he battle the other day. Oh my God.
He played fantastic.
He played fantastic. Is right. Well, with that, we're gonna get into that in a couple of minutes. Let's just talk also the good stuff locally. Division III football locally has really taken a high step. It's been great. My alma mater, Springfield College, went all the way to the semifinals, which was great, running the wishbone. I mean, Paul McGonigal up at Endicott, they won a playoff game. The guys down at UMass Dartmouth are doing a great job. So I think Division III football, quite frankly, and they're playing with all homegrown guys, Danny, that has been really fun.
Yeah, I mean, you look at Tufts. I mean, I saw that Michael Berluti, a Westwood kid who went to Zavarian, he won the Division III award from the.
Yes, he did. Yeah.
I mean, he was a hell of a player, but again, like you just said a few minutes ago, he might be an inch or two short, this, that, but he's just a football player.
And you know what, Danny? He picked the right school. That's the big deal. He picked the right school, and that's that has been that's been my pet peeve all the way through. Kids all want to play D1. Yeah. Listen, go division, go where you wanted. And Mike, I mean, what a fantastic job. His dad Bobby's a great guy. I mean, his brothers played at Amherst, and just a really great. The Berluti family, really, really great family. I was really happy to see a homegrown guy. And Dame, I don't want to leave your alma mater out of this.
Yep.
I'm really, really excited about your new hire.
I am too.
He is a fantastic coach. For the guys who don't know it, he's the guy that took over the University of Maine and brought him to the national semifinals. I mean, this guy he's a great guy, and UMass has got it right with this guy. He's going to do a hell of a job.
Yeah, when he first got hired, I think I said on the podcast, I want someone young and just completely different from Don Brown. We got a completely.
Was he an energetic type?
Exactly.
Oh, yeah.
I just think that we need someone young, just a completely different hire, and I think we hit it right on the head with someone experiences with him.
Yeah, Danny, he's been he left Maine because Maine pays University of Maine pays horrifically. He made 3 times the money to go to the University of Minnesota to be the linebacker coach, became the DC. Then he was that just recently as the DC down at Rutgers, and UMass poached him. They're paying him over 7 figures right now. God bless UMass. Okay, we rip him to death, but at least they're making a move here. He's gone out. He's gotten some good Massachusetts kids in the portal.
I just saw you got the kid Weidman.
Yeah, Sully Weidman. Yeah, from West Virginia. Yeah. So again, I tip my hat to UMass for getting that done. So, anyways, I mean, I think honestly, were there any frustrations with the college season for you, Danny?
No, I mean, I liked it. I get there always seems to be a story every week. I mean, I'm fascinated by Dion. I know you don't like him,
I know.
but he just, I mean, he's fascinating to me. And you listen to the stuff he says. I mean, he does make sense a lot of times. They went out and got insurance for the players, to play in the game, things like that. Even the couple of days before he pulls it in and starts talking about smoking.
Yeah.
If I catch you smoking, you better hope it's a good puff, because it'll be the last one you take in a Colorado. I mean, I just laugh about it, but and I know people get, he's an easy target to knock when they got ripped by BYU, who I think is pretty good.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Oh, yeah.
Look at where they are now to from 2 years ago.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
he's certainly done it. He's done a good job there.
Done a great job, and not many guys in the portal out of BYU.
Yeah.
No,
And Danny, in truth be told, I'm a convert with Dion. I mean, I agree with you. I mean, my big problem with Dion was the first day on the job. And I bet you if he had it over again, he would have done it differently about announcing.
I don't think he would have. I think he was set in his way. And I know he got called on it. Because I remember Dan Patrick had him on the show, and I'll give him credit. He took it. He explained why he did it. Dan Patrick was like, I still think it was a wrong thing to do.
Yeah, and I'm with Dan Patrick, but again, he's done some great things. And personally, we've had this kid Nikhil Webb Walker who played in the league and is an unbelievable story. A Metco kid that went up to Ipswich, had nothing, played in the league. Ended up going to Bridgeton, going to New Mexico State, going to Colorado. Unfortunately, gets cancer. And we've got the fundraising page on my Twitter if you want to help out. But Dion's has stood right by him, and he's gotten money to the kid and his mom and all that stuff. So I am with you. I think he's doing the right. Yeah. All right. Well, let's go to a little NFL stuff before we get to Mike. I know what you're happy about this year, buddy.
Well,
Dave, what do you got?
You want me to go, or
Go ahead. Yes, indeed.
Well, obviously, there's a little payola tonight. I know a lot of people. There's going to be interesting to see how the Lions handle this game, because it's there's nothing on the line.
Yeah.
Does Dan go crazy? Run the risk of getting somebody hurt, because last year they were in a similar situation. Last game of the regular season, and they had nothing to gain. He played all his guys, and Laporta got hurt.
Right.
And fortunately, he was able to play in the playoffs. He wasn't the same. But, you get that, especially with a team that's had so many injuries that they have. Are they, there's that, being the conservative school of thought, why not just take it easy, rest everyone up for next week's game, which is the game that, you need to get that top seed. But I don't think that's how he rolls.
Yeah.
So.
You know what, Danny? This is my guess. I was not in a lot of situations as a coach where we had to rest, where games were basically meaningless. But I will say this is my guess with Dan. I bet you he's going to leave it up to his best players whether they want to play or not. The problem with not playing your best players is that, and again, let's go back to the ridiculous, stupid, idiotic rule of the NFL only dressing 47 guys.
Yeah.
Is that if the right tackle wants to sit out, then all of a sudden your right guard's playing with an inferior player next to him. Okay, and that's when shit gets bad. You know what I mean? I mean, we've all seen it. Damien, you've seen it in high school practice, stuff like that. When you put a JV player into the lineup and all of a sudden everything gets all fucked up.
Yeah.
So my guess is because they can't rest everyone. It's going to be interesting to see how he handles it. Kansas City, I think, has basically already said, I don't know what's going on, but from judging from the line being Denver given 9.5, I would say they'd probably say they're going to rest them.
Yeah, I mean, I can't believe they'd play Mahomes unless they play him one series and get him out of there. And that could be what the Lions do tonight with Goff. A couple series, get him out of there or whatever the case may be.
The one thing I would say, Danny, that when we were in blowouts when I was coaching, is the last group of guys you want backups in are the offensive line, because no matter what, you want everyone behind you, whether they're backups or starters, you want them protected.
Right.
So, yeah. But so it's been listen. But the title here was Lions, Tigers, and Bears. Your Lions have been absolutely fantastic. My Bengal Tigers.
They're still in it.
So
Unfortunately, I think it's like the Boston Marathon. I think we're sprinting at the end here, and we might get nosed out. But oh God, it's been a rough year for the Bengals, and now all of a sudden they put it all together, and I don't know.
it's too bad because he's not going to be the MVP, but I mean Burrow was unbelievable.
Unbelievable.
This is why at the end of the game, and I think Sean Payton has done a fantastic job. Why are you kicking the extra point? They should have went for you. Go for the win there. In my opinion, I think.
You remember now? You remember they all they had to do was tie. I mean, so I don't necessarily have a problem with that.
Mm-hmm.
Believe it or not, the Bengals screwed up their time management.
Yes, they did. Absolutely.
Because now I'm sitting with Dante. I got 3 kids. He's the genius. The other ones, I mean, we put up with them. But anyways, I said, Dante, I go, what's the deal? He goes, yeah, all they're gonna do is tie. They're in that. He goes, the Bengals should kick the field goal on first down. I go, why? He goes, well, if they miss it, then they're gonna have an extra 3.5, 4 minutes to come back. But they lost 40 seconds on it.
Yeah.
Okay. Then they try kicking it and miss it. Okay. Then Denver gets the ball. And Peyton, what does he do? I mean, he basically gives him the ball. I mean, he goes
conservative. I mean,
crazy.
You don't want to give Burrow too many shots. I mean, he's just so good.
Danny, would you agree? And Dame, you've been through the Brady era. I mean, he's the closest thing to Brady I've ever seen. I can't get over how good he is.
I honestly, I think he's got more physical ability.
Yes.
I mean, Brady, the intangibles, the closest I see to Brady intangibles is Mahomes.
Yeah.
But I mean, Burrow, I mean, he can make all the throws. Yeah. And he's not playing behind a good offensive line either. I mean, that kid is tough.
No.
And the one thing I like is you don't see him bitching about it.
No. Obviously, Lou, the D coordinator, is my good friend, Lou Anarumo. And he hasn't become a bad coach overnight, by the way. But I'll tell you what, I saw a film clip of one of the press conferences where they were baiting Joe Burrow to talk bad about the defense.
Right.
And Burrow defended Lou like I would defend you. I mean,
that bad?
Come on, come on. Someone's got to defend you. I mean, you're taking shots. I mean, left and
public
right.
enemy number one.
You're bobbing and weaving. You're like you're like Ali on the ropes. But anyways, Burrow's like, you Lou Anarumo. I love Lou Anarumo. And again, this for me, that's the guy I want to be in the foxhole with. And again, he's not going to get the MVP. And I mean, who's your MVP, buddy? Who you got?
To me, I would go with Josh Allen. I mean, I look at it, I know Lamar Jackson's got a little better numbers, but to me, Josh beat Kansas City and he beat Detroit. I mean, he's got good numbers, but who have they really beaten? He had a shot to beat the Chiefs. They didn't get it done.
They've also lost to bad teams, the Ravens, like the Browns.
I mean, come on now.
Well, you know what? If indeed our show gets one vote, and maybe next year we'll get one, I'm taking it. I go Shaquan Barkley. I think the guy.
I can't debate that either.
What he has done for the Eagles has been unbelievable. I mean, that guy and you all. I mean, I'm not one for firing coaches or GMs by any means, but how did the Giants survive?
Oh, it's terrible. Terrible.
And it was Hard Knocks. It was on Hard Knocks.
It was Hard Knocks.
It was live. It was crazy.
The owner wanted him to stay. He wanted to keep him. But it's one of the rare times where the owner should have stepped in and said, no, he's staying.
Well, listen, we got a great guest. Okay. Mike Uva is I've known him since he was a little guy running around my camps. Was a really good player up at St. John's Prep. Was a really good player up at Assumption. Got out and wanted to be a sportscaster. and his journey has been really, really fun. It's very interesting. Along the way, he's won 2 Emmy Awards. 2 Emmy Awards. So let's bring him out of the waiting room, Dame. Let's bring in the great Mike Uva. Come on, Mike. Come on in.
What's going on, guys?
What's happening?
Where are you? Dad's house?
No, I'm in my shoebox in Rhode Island. I still have the place in South Carolina, but we're living in a shoebox right now. So not the same background I've had for the last couple of years when I do shows.
Go get him, Daddy.
But I mean, nice kid from Boston winds up in South Carolina. First, let's start. How do you wind up there for starters?
Well, and it's going to be funny because I've mentioned his name a couple times, either here or in South Carolina, especially last year. I was with Sean Stellato, of all people. I was with Sean Stellato, and
my guy.
He was a receiver coach at St. John's Prep. Ironically, he was one of the first people my dad interviewed when my dad became the head coach at Peabody. It just didn't work out because he was having his first kid. He ends up going to the Prep, and they reunite there. So Sean is, he's hustling and bustling, trying to break it into the agency world, was doing it, with a company for a couple of years. But I told him, I said, hey, I'm finishing up college ball. I said, I have access to cameras. Let's do like a behind the scenes documentary about what it's like to be like an NFL agent. So we went up to like the military bowl. We went to the Pinstripe Bowl, and then we went to the Browns versus Steelers week 17 game in a span of 3 days, and went to the NFL Combine with them, went to all these different places. We also went to the Medal of Honor Bowl, and that's where Malcolm Butler and I became friends before anyone knew who Malcolm Butler was, because he was just this Division II corner from West Alabama. I have the tweet still. I said, keep an eye on this guy from D2. I said, he's locking down these SEC wide receivers. I'm still waiting for my ring from Belichick. I'm sure he saw that tweet all those years ago. But I'm down there, and I bumped shoulders with a guy who ended up being someone that got me my first job, and that was Corey Miller. He was a phenomenal All-American edge player at South Carolina, played in the NFL with the Giants and the Vikings in the 90s, and we're at a charity golf tournament a year later in Mississippi, and he's like, wait, you look familiar. He's like, did you hold a camera for me? And I said, yeah, I did. And then the following year, I get a job in South Carolina because all his buddies, whether it be Jim McMahon or just all these random athletes that were there saying, hey, give Mike a shot, give Mike a shot. And then I ended up at South Carolina and got there in 2016.
Now, it's a different world. I mean, the college football scene is a little different up down there.
Totally different.
There. You must have crazy stories about the fan bases down there.
Oh, yeah. And, this is the second time that I've gone from covering SEC football while covering professional football. I did it back in 2022 when I was freelancing at WBZ in Boston with Steve Bird and Dan Roach and just an awesome crew there. And being up here now at WPRI while still covering the Gamecocks, it's my 10th season of covering the SEC, and this is my 9th season of covering the Gamecocks. You get up here on Saturdays, and granted, I grew up in this area, right? I grew up in Peabody, grew up in the North Shore. It is different once you've been away for so long, and then you come back, and it's like, the girlfriend, she's from South Carolina. It's a Saturday, and you're walking around town, and it's like, wait, people don't care that college football is going on. Now, granted, there's a lot of great football up here, as we all know. I'm proud to say that I went to Assumption. I'm proud of my buddies that played, whether it be at Holy Cross or, NESCAC schools, wherever the case may be. But it isn't the same, with all due respect to a fellow St. John's Prep Eagle, Bill O'Brien, and he's done a phenomenal job in year one. It's not the same just because down there, it truly is a way of life. I mean, people spend thousands of dollars for just a tiny little friggin' parking spot that they'll tailgate in. They pay property tax on it year round just to use it 7 to 8 times a year. It's unbelievable. It is truly a different way of life. I got to experience that when I was in Mississippi at first. I was there for 15 months. I was in the Delta, but I'd also go out and cover Ole Miss, Mississippi State, but even D2 football was big down there. Mississippi Valley State, covering a little SWAC action. Football is just different, but especially SEC. And even though Clemson's not in the SEC, I'd throw them in there just because it's a different way of life in the South because there's no pro teams down there.
Well, I mean, the only thing I can equate it to would be like BCBU hockey up here. But talk about Clemson, South Carolina football.
And I didn't realize what type of rivalry it really was until I got down there. Put it this way. And I know I'm a little bit younger. I caught the more of the tail end of the Red Sox Yankees rivalry. I didn't get to see the Showtime Lakers and Celtics. But if you thought that the Red Sox and Yankees, especially during that like 2000 period before the Red Sox won that first World Series in 86 years in 04, I would say when I saw that, I thought that was the rivalry of all rivalries. Then you go to the South, these people friggin' hate each other year round. 365 days in a year. Doesn't matter if they're playing friggin' tiddlywinks. South Carolina and Clemson, they hate each other. And I've been in situations where people would go on dates and someone's from South Carolina, they find out it's a Clemson person, they just friggin' walk out of the restaurant. I mean, they're like, my dad would disown me. My family would disown me. I mean, it is absolutely incredible. And just the stuff that you see on social media, the stuff you see in terms of when you're in the stadium, just the sports hate. That's what I'd call it, sports hate, because there was part of it where it's like, all right, a Clemson person, a Gamecock person, they can get along. But it is something I've never seen before. And I think with that state in particular, because there's some great rivalries out there. There's, obviously you got Harvard, Yale, you got the Iron Bowl, Alabama, and Auburn. There's something to be said about that state. There's something to be said about that state because even if you go to South Carolina State, even if you go to the Citadel, you go to a Division II school like Newberry, wherever the case may be, it's kind of like, okay, well, who are you pulling for? You pulling for Clemson? You pulling for South Carolina? I mean, it is truly a divided state.
Now, I know you're a big Shane Beamer fan. Tell us about him, buddy.
What you see is what you get. He's everything that's right about college football. He's someone that, and I think in this era with with NIL and transfer portal, there's so much, and even before it, and Coach, you know this, and Danny, I'm sure you've heard of stories, and I can go back during my recruiting days when I was coming out of high school. There's a lot of used car salesman coaches out there. And I think in this era, when you talk about NIL and you talk about the transfer portal, yes, some things could muddy the water a little bit, certainly when you're talking about getting a nice car or maybe getting some money, right? But at the same time, too, being authentic will ultimately be what the deciding factor is to me. And when I say that, I'm not talking about just going there. I'm talking about finishing there. Now, some players, they might enter the portal for one reason or another, right? I mean, maybe there's a situation, for example, for South Carolina. They have a quarterback that came in, Robbie Ashford, did exactly what they asked him to do, was competing for the starting job, was the backup. And they have this kid, Lenore Sellers, who now will probably be on the preseason watch list for the Heisman next year. Robbie has 1 year of eligibility left. He's going to go back and enter the portal, So situations like that happen. But if you're not authentic, kids are going to come in and they're going to be like, wait, why the hell did I come here? You told me X, Y, Z, especially now that the transfer portal rule, you can enter as many times as you want. So I think with Shane, more than anything, he's authentic. He's a lot like his dad, where he's very loyal, whether it be to his players, whether it be to his coaching staff. And I think he just gets it too. I think in this era, we talk about NIL, and certainly in that part of the region, you need to be a politician in a lot of ways. You can't just be the type of coach that, you coach games and you do your weekly media availability. You need to go out there. You need to kiss babies, right? And I think he understands that part too. And because of that, they've had a, obviously phenomenal season, but they've also been able to generate a lot of NIL money. And there's a lot of buzz down there. So I'm absolutely crazy about the guy. Because he's authentic too. And the other thing too that I like about him is if you screw up, if there's something that he doesn't like, he'll message you and he'll be like, what the hell is that? And I think he'd be okay with me sharing that. It's kind of like, wait, that's not what I said. Or, he'll just say, hey, because there's coaches, some coaches will call you out in front of him. And he's done that sometimes with people, but he's a fair guy too. And I think that's another thing that I like about him, because again, from that professional standpoint, he's able to be a person, but at the same time, too, not belittle someone if, he has a question about something or something was worded a certain way or quoted or misquoted or whatever the case may be.
He sounds similar to Brian St. Pierre in some ways. Brian is what he is. I think Brian is authentic. If he's got something to say, he'll say it. But I think he'll be pretty, straightforward with it as well.
Yeah, and I had a chance to cover Will Muschamp, and God, Will's awesome, and being able to get to know him more since he left South Carolina. I mean, God, he's a guy that likes to throw him back. I remember one night in particular, but that's not the point. The thing is, you'll have certain coaches that will go in front of the camera. Don't get me wrong. Every coach to an extent, they're going to have to go out there and they're not going to be able to truly be themselves fully, or they're not going to be able to say everything. They're going to have to, keep some things in-house.
Yeah.
But at the same time too, Shane, to a fault, he shares pretty much everything. There's some stuff they're not going to share out there, but he's very direct. Like, he's not going to play these games with you. But he mentioned St. Pierre. I mean, yeah, St. Pierre, that's a great example. And ironically, Brian St. Pierre was the first quarterback, or one of the two, that I saw for my first college game. It was against that Miami Hurricane team against Kent Dorsey. Coach Uva brought me, and it was real special. And little did I know that'd be the guy that would be coaching my alma mater and be working with my dad now for almost the last decade, which is just crazy to think that it's been that long since, or not. It hasn't been 10 years yet, but since Jimmy O'Leary stepped down to the prep.
Right.
Let's transition, buddy. Let's come on back up north, all right? And this is going to be because we saved our Patriots. We saved our Patriots conversation for now. So, give us because we're going to give you our opinion too. We'll put you on the hot seat first. Where do you think they're at, and what do you think they should do?
Well, this is the same conversation I had Sunday night with Andy Gresh. We do a show at WPRI 1030 on Fox Providence, and we break it all down, and we talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly. And certainly there's been a lot of bad and ugly, and even uglier as of late, especially with what we saw on Saturday. I think the reality is with this team, we knew that they weren't going to be good this year. Anyone that says that, we wanted to see progress this year, they're lying, right? We know that. I think the problem is, and Coach, you get this, right? I'm sure Danny, you've covered teams like this where it's one thing to say, okay, they're not going to be good, but it's another thing to not improve in a lot of areas. And really take steps back as the season goes on in a lot of ways. Now, have they improved? Correct. Have they improved in certain areas? Yes, they have. Has there been some good things here and there? Yes. But when you keep taking steps back, and I can tell you from being in that locker room 2 to 3 times a week, even though there's more of an openness in comparison to when I covered the team 2 years ago and Belichick was there, the dynamic in that building, it is completely different in comparison to where it was at the start of the year. And I'm not, I know there was reports about a mutiny in the locker. I'm not going to go that crazy, but there definitely seems like a disconnect. And I think the challenging part is, even if this is a rebuilding year, when you go out there and you get your teeth kicked in the way that they did on Saturday, and you have one more game to go, and who knows what's going to happen with this game. I mean, we joked around that it's going to be like, the Tic-Tac Bowl. Like, you have no idea who's going to be out there for both teams. I mean, Buffalo could put their JVs out there essentially. Well, the Patriots play Drake May, whatever the case may be. Well, if the Patriots play their starters and Buffalo puts their backups in, and you lose by double digits or something like that. So the point being is, at this point, you want to try to find something good, but at the same time, too, it has just been an absolute disaster. It's been a disaster, even for a team that we knew was going to have struggles this year.
I mean, what bothers me is you look at some of the stuff that goes on during the game. It's just, the same mistakes week after week. I mean, the offensive line is terrible.
And I think that's the part, Danny, right? It's the fact that the things that they the things that they screw up, that they continue to screw up.
Yes.
Over and over and over. There was a period of time, and I can't even imagine, Coach Pap, what you would have done if this happened to you. There's a penalty on special teams, and then the next week, to start the game, there's a penalty on special teams. To start the frigging game on special teams, I can only imagine what a prime Coach Pap would have been doing as a head. He might have. I don't even want to know.
I'd be in handcuffs.
Yeah.
It's frustrating. I mean, I think the problem now is that, Kraft came out and basically said this is his guy. Yep. So, I know the big thing is, do we move on after a year? But if they do that, then Kraft's going to have to admit, he screwed up. And let's face it, these guys don't like to admit when they're wrong.
Right.
Yep. No, and Danny, that's the big thing. I think you're spot on. If the Krafts, and it's not just Robert, it's Jonathan as well. And that's the other thing too. Like, how much does Jonathan get into the ear of the old man and say, hey, we got to pull the plug on this? If they were to move on from Mayo, you're essentially saying, hey, look, this whole process of speeding up the idea of, okay, we're going to have Mayo come in a year earlier than what was reported out there, and Belichick's not going to do the 2024 season. You're basically saying, oh, we screwed it up. Now, that's not saying that Belichick, would still be here after the 2024 season. What you're saying is we believe so much in Gerard Mayo to be that next guy that we decided to speed up the process and have him be the head coach for the 2024 season instead of waiting for 2025.
Exactly.
Not only did you regress, let's put it this way. Again, you still have one more game to go. And I know people will say, oh, you grew up in an era where the Patriots were really good. You don't remember when they were really bad and X, Y's. I get that. But when you start looking at some of these numbers, it's like, well, things were bad back then. Things are getting even worse now. And what I mean by that is the Patriots, right? Historically, they've had 5 seasons where they've lost 13 games or more. 2 of those 13 lost seasons have happened back-to-back years now. Even going back to the 90s, 90 and 92, right? They haven't had back-to-back years of losing at least 13 games. And they have a chance to lose 14 games now. So things are bad. And the fact that you do have this young, talented quarterback that you love, and you knew that you were going to have to put pieces around him. They didn't do that, whether it be from a protection standpoint up front. And God bless Jacoby Brissett. That guy was a friggin' scapegoat. We knew what the situation was. That guy, he's done everything that he's needed to do. If he goes out there, if he's the starting quarterback this week for the Patriots, what's the message that sends? Not just to the organization and everything into the fan base, but what's it send to the players in there? Because there was friction in that building. And I can say this confidently, there were players that were kind of pissed off that May wasn't starting at, after like week 3, 4, whatever the case may be, because they're like, wait a minute, if we're going to save him, why am I risking my body week in and week out? So I say that because you go into a game like this weekend. And granted, I still think with Sean McDermott, I know we all know how much he loves the Patriots. I'm sure he didn't send a Christmas card to him this year. It would be very Belichick-like to do whatever you can to lose this game because you've already cemented your spot as the number 2 seed. So if the Patriots win this game, all you're really doing if you're the Bills is hopefully screwing over a team in your division and hoping that it will mess them up for the next couple of years instead of having the number 1 seed, number 1 draft pick and doing whatever the heck they want with it.
You are going deep, buddy. You are like really going deep into these theories. I love it.
It makes all the sense in the world. Absolutely.
I know it does, man.
I know I'm rambling here. I'm sorry, Coach.
This is good.
Put it this way. I've had to cover this. I said I'm grateful for the job. I am grateful for the job. But I come back. South Carolina's having one of the best seasons they've had in, over a decade. And I'm covering a Patriots team who is having another 13-loss season. And we are close to the finish line of having to cover this team. And it has just been an absolute mess. And again, growing up in this area, I love the Patriots, loved everything that we've seen, but you can separate the two when you're covering them. It's been just an absolute train wreck. I know you guys were talking about a UMass coach. Let's pivot it to a different sport, basketball. I was talking to Frank Martin yesterday, the head coach over there, and he's a big football fan. He's a Dolphins fan, and he was asking me about the Patriots. I said, Frank, it's been a dumpster fire in Foxborough. I said, but then calling it a dumpster fire would be an insult to dumpster fires.
Yeah.
Mike, that's why we call this the rant. You can come in and rant all you want.
I need to get it off.
As long as your beautiful girlfriend hasn't left you, you're still in a good shape, buddy.
She's in the corner. She actually just walked in. Good thing I have the earbuds in, but then she has to hear me talk.
I think this. I think that, and I'm not going to pontificate. I think that Mayo was not the right choice, obviously. But I'm going to say this about Elliott Wolf. I'm not sure that, I'm not sure he's been given a chance. Now, if they're going to clean house and they're going to do the whole thing, I kind of get it. The one thing about scouting that people don't realize, and I've learned this from all the guys at the Chiefs, is when these guys scout players, they don't scout them for a couple weeks, a couple months. They go back. They go back into their high school years. And and Elliott was, again, Mike, you know better than me. You're in the locker room. I just think that guy needs to be given a chance. And you got to give him credit. You got to give him credit that he did pick Drake May. And there was everyone says there were no other options. No, there were other options to trade out of it and so on and so forth. So I give him that, But if I'm Kraft, I mean, it's simple as this. It didn't work. I mean, Mayo's got to go. I mean, he reminds me of Mike Singletary with no talent.
Yeah.
Mike Singletary took over the Bears. There was a shitload of talent, and he did a really nice job because he was motivating and so on and so forth. Not an X's and O guy. Mayo, Mike, you deal with him all the time. But I mean, he's got to have some sort of presence in that locker room. I think Crafty. I think he's just got to go out and get a good coach right away. I'm not sure if Ben Johnson would come because of Drake May. The other problem,
I don't think he should be a head coach.
Oh, shut up! Shut up! You can't. You're still all tickled about the fake fumble touchdown pass. My God, look at you! Look at you! You're like the Captain Theory. Oh, please.
He's a lifetime contract as the assistant coach of the Lions.
He is gone. Unbelievable. Mike, if they do go out, who do you think they would have as possible guys that will come to coach the team?
Well, I mean, I think the first one that comes to mind would be Mike Vrabel, right?
Sure.
Just because, that's a guy that, I mean, personally, and I know it's easy to say this now, but I felt this way beforehand. I would have loved to see Vrabel come in. Because one thing that you hear from the players, and I think when you hear some of the things that the players are saying, and you hear the idea of what Kraft ultimately wanted, some of it has worked out. The players do respect Mayo in the sense that he's a former player. There's certain things that he's able to show us. He understands what we've been through. The players get that. The problem that I think he's running into is, and it seems like whether it be the situation this past weekend where right before the game on 98.5 The Sports Hub, he's saying one thing about who's going to start at running back. Antonio Gibson's going to be the starter. And then what happens? Ramondre Stevenson goes out there. And there's been a consistent flow of this happening week in and week out in some shape, way, or form. After games, he'll say one thing, and then on Monday, he'll walk it back, and he'll say, well, this isn't exactly what I meant. You give someone the benefit of the doubt when that happens maybe once or twice, but when it's constantly happening week after week after week, and I think that's the issue. And I think when you look at that more than anything, I think that's the biggest indicator that he's in over his head. Now, is that to say that Mayo can't be a successful NFL coach one day? No, he could. I just think right now, and we all know this. I mean, shoot, not to compare the two, but like when my dad came in and became the head coach of Peabody for Ed Nizikowski, it didn't matter who was coming in after Ed. You could have had Bill Belichick in there. It was going to be a lose-lose situation regardless. Again, not the same apples to apples comparison right now.
No, that isn't good. You go back to the old adage. You never want to be the guy who replaces the legend. You want to be the guy who replaces the guy who replaced the legend. And like you, I think that's a great analogy you made with your dad and with Mayo.
And different obviously circumstances and different
Sure.
styles and all that kind of stuff, but just the whole premise of whoever was going to come in there was going to be a tough situation. Mayo coming in, it was going to be a tough situation. I give a lot of credit, and I know some Alabama fans might roll their eyes if they were hearing this. I give a lot of credit to DeBoer because going in and doing what he did in year one, and yes, from an Alabama standpoint, did they miss the cut of not making the playoff? Okay, but at the same time too, I think there's probably a lot of people outside of Tuscaloosa that probably looked at that situation and saying, hey, if you tell me he's going to go 9-3 in year one and get them to a point where they're just right on the cusp of making the college football playoff,
Right.
That would be a surprise for me. So, I mean, it's tough when you're coming in and replacing a legend or following in the footsteps of a legend. And I think for Mayo, especially with the circumstances being the way that they were, which is they sped the process up. And you mentioned Elliott Wolf. I agree that, he had to work with, it's kind of like going into a kitchen and someone says, all right, make me filet mignon, but all you have is a Twix and a box of Fruit Loops. It's like, you got to work with what you got. Now, could he have gone out? And I don't want to make this analogy even more deep by saying he could have gone to the grocery stores, gone to Shaw's or whatever, but you get the point. He could have gone out and probably got some other pieces, but now he has a better idea of what he's working with because now he's been in that kitchen for a year.
Now, the one thing I will say in his defense is that he did make the attempt. They did try to get the wide receiver from San Fran. He tried to go after Calvin Ridley. They actually offered more money. And this is what's going to be the problem is you've got to get these guys to want to come here. And right now, they don't want to come here. Even if you're giving them more money, they just there's no interest in why should we come there?
I was remembering, I was watching Bill Belichick on McAfee when, with your guy, Boston Connor. And I remember Belichick, and I'm paraphrasing because this was from a couple months ago, but he talked about some of the challenges about players going up in that era, whether it be about the weather, whether it be about the taxes, right?
Yeah.
But what helped the Patriots during that time period overcome a lot of those things? They were winning.
Yep.
They had the greatest player of all time. They had Tom Brady, for crying out loud.
Yeah.
I mean, I can really, as a lifelong Lions fan, I mean, whenever they signed a free agent years ago, they almost had to way overpay to get somebody to go there. Now it's all of a sudden, the culture has changed. Guys, you're actually hearing guys want to go there. And I think this is what New England, it's going to be a big battle. They've got to, reverse the course and, want to have guys who want to come there.
It's not just Boston either. It's New York. It's the Jets, it's the Giants, it's Boston. Again, say what you want, but there's a lot of things working against it. Taxes, culture, all that stuff. Weather, really tough. The one thing about Vrabel, and I'm a huge Vrabel fan, but Mike, and you got the inside scoops better than I do, but I had heard he really wore his welcome bad at Tennessee, and with the owner and the GM, and that might be. But again, he's Kraft's guy. I would love to see Mike Vrabel come back and take it over. Who do you like, Mike? Who do you think is going to win the whole thing?
Well, I'm one of those New England bobos that don't want to see the Chiefs win it. I'm tired of them winning, Coach.
I got you.
Look, Detroit's been fun. I think the biggest thing, and I don't need to tell Danny this, is will they be able to make it to the finish line after all these injuries that they've gone through? The fact that they've been able to put together what they've done when they could practically put a team together, especially on the defensive side of the ball. They could field a team of 11 players who are injured and make a roster, for crying out loud. So, it's been a shame because I really like Dan Campbell, and from talking to people that have been around him, I know South Carolina's new wide receiver coach, Mike Furry, he had an opportunity to play along him, and Furry's done a great job at South Carolina, coached at Limestone, I believe.
I believe he's an ex-Lions receiver.
He is an ex-Lion.
How about this? The year before he came to the Lions, he actually had 4 interceptions with the Rams. Comes over to the Lions, goes back at wide receiver, and he has over 1,000-yard receiving season. I mean, the guy, you want to talk about getting coached up. And I believe, and I mentioned him because I believe when he was at Limestone, unless he had just missed them, I believe former Dartmouth running back Jordan Todman was on his coaching staff, who I remember as a kid watching, and I say as a kid, he was like maybe a year or two older than me. But I remember when they first started playing games at Gillette Stadium for the Super Bowls for the MIAA. And I just remember him and Isaac. Was it Isaac? Was Johnson?
Isaac Johnson, yeah.
Isaac Johnson. They were just putting on a clinic, just going back and forth. But there's your Massachusetts tie. You had a chance to work with Mike Furry down at Limestone.
No kidding. Danny, we know your pick.
Well, obviously, I wish the Lions were healthier. I'm going to stay with the Lions. I don't care.
Yeah,
I didn't really give a pick. I'm gonna go with the Ravens. I'll throw that out there. I think this could be the year of the Ravens.
There you go, Mike. I got a lot of friends with all these guys. There's only one team I don't want to win it. I don't want the Eagles to win it. I hate those guys. I hate Sirianni and stuff like that. I don't know. I love the line, obviously.
What a difference, Coach. Coach, you want to talk about how winning cures all, and we know this on any level, high school, college, pro. Look at that situation for a period of time, especially at the beginning of the year. Gresh and I would talk about it. That looked like a situation, and I'm sure many else probably thought about it, like, all right, if the Eagles decide to split with Sirianni, could there be a situation that Belichick is the next head coach of Philly? But what happens? They start to find their groove. They're starting to win games. Barkley, he's been playing incredible. What more can you really say? Becomes the 9th running back in NFL history to rush for 2,000 yards, 101 yards away now from breaking Eric Dickerson's record.
And Hurts is a great guy running the team, and it's yet again.
Beamer thinks with Beamer being at Oklahoma during that time period too with them, he thinks the world of him. He thinks the world of him.
Everyone loves Hurts. Yeah, he's great. Mike, we could talk forever with you. I'll tell you what, buddy, this has been fantastic. We're really proud of you, buddy.
Absolutely,
you've done unbelievable, and again, keep on climbing. All right, buddy, and hopefully being on this show didn't hurt your career at all. We hope.
Oh no! If any, I mean, my phone's already been ringing. My agent's already saying I have all these endorsements and different requests now to do different shows. This is
I don't know
awesome.
about that, but nice of you to say
buddy,
that.
listen, I hope I see you in Fort Lauderdale this winter, okay?
All right, hey, can you make sure Paulie and Kathy stay out of trouble?
That will be fine. We'll take good care of them. We always do.
Take
Thanks,
care.
buddy.
Give the family
All
my
right.
best.
Appreciate
now.
it, guys.
Bye.
How great is that?
Great
Mike
kid.
Uva.
Such a good
Great
kid.
The best. I'll tell you what. Can't get better than him. What a climb. I mean, he was doing TV in Mississippi. And
I don't know how he does it. I mean, South Carolina to Rhode Island. It's like, I guess the joys of being young.
Oh yeah. He's got a lovely girlfriend. She's great. They come to Lauderdale every winter, so it was great.
All right, buddy. Listen, let's get our year-end rants and shout-outs. Let's go negative start. Let's start with our rants. What do you got, my friend?
All right. I mean, I know this is going to be a biased thing. I just wish, the NCAA, now the NFL. I look at Detroit, Minnesota. One of these teams could wind up with 13 to 14 wins and not get a home game in the playoffs.
Crazy.
And you got teams with 9 or 10 wins are going to get a home game. I mean, there's something wrong with this pitcher.
Yeah.
And I know it's, hopefully if the Lions take care of business, it won't matter. But if they do take care of business, then I feel for Minnesota, who could be 14-3 and may have to go play, I'm guessing, Tampa at Tampa.
Crazy. I mean,
and then the colleges, we've talked about this before. No disrespect to Boise State and Arizona State, but there's no one in their right mind could tell me that they're the third and fourth best teams in the country.
No,
come on.
It is. No, Danny, it is so bad. It's comical. It's comical, and I'm with you. I think it's a good rant.
All right, my rant is this: you know what? I know it's from the beginning of time, but we talked about impatient parents, Danny. I'm so sick of impatient fan bases. Again, I just can't take it. I mean, McAfee calls it overreaction Monday, but it's like that every single week in every single area. And it's even high school, I mean, the Patriots are a perfect example. I'm not defending them, but 2 weeks ago, they go up and they play Buffalo to a last possession game in the snow.
Great game.
Unbelievable job. Oh, we're getting there. Then they come out and lay an egg, and everyone says this is the end of the world. So I'm just so sick of it. I'm sick of it with the college things. It's just too big. It's too big of a roller coaster for me. So for that, that is going to be that's my first season end rant. I'm having a second one. Do I get a second one, Dame?
Sure.
Of course.
I'm fucking sick of analytics. I mean, this is the problem. You know what? I mean, this is why Sean Payton and Zach Taylor and everyone's making bad decisions because they got so many things going in there. Oh, you should be kicking. You should be doing. Oh, I'm sick of it. I think it has screwed football up royalty, and it has led to more bad decisions than good decisions.
Could even throw clock mismanagement in there.
Oh, clock mismanagement.
Everybody, every week, it's like, what are you doing? Like last night, Atlanta.
Right.
Yeah. That may have cost him a playoff spot.
A fucking playoff game, Danny. It's unbelievable. I mean, you know what? It cost the Bears guys their job because they couldn't manage the goddamn clock. Oh, do it. The one thing Belichick always had was Ernie Adams.
Yeah.
That guy's a genius. And that guy was always.
I don't know why more teams just don't, like in baseball. If you get a young manager, they always give this old like bench coach type, guy who's been around. In football, I know these owners are hurting for money. So they don't want to act. I mean, you give somebody, $100,000, and their job is their only job is clock management. You got 2 timeouts. Take the timeout. Run the clock. Do that. I mean, it's just bad. The clock mismanagement.
It's screwing games up left and right. So that's my year-end rant. All right, Danny. Let's end on a positive note. Besides your lovely wife, Carla, what are you thankful for, buddy?
I'm very happy. I watched the Navy football game the other day, and look, I know this is not Chuck Fairbanks, Barry Switzer, Oklahoma, but Oklahoma is still a name. And Navy, when you watch that first quarter, it's like, oh boy, Navy's still celebrating their Army win. But give those guys credit. They battled back, and their quarterback, Blake Horvath, he's probably, of the 22 players on the field at that time, he might have been the slowest guy, yet he still runs it for a 95-yard touchdown. They survived the game when Oklahoma went for the win at the end, didn't get it. 10 wins for the first time since 2019. And their coach, Brian Newberry, I mean, what a job he's done turning it around there.
Danny, I am so with you. I am so with you. And I just want to let you know I'm the worst gambler of all time. The worst. The fucking worst. I mean, I lose everything. Coaches are the worst.
We got a friend who's like that.
I am the mush. I'm mush. I'm from Bronxdale. But listen, I hit the Chiefs over this year to get me back in the action. I hit the Patriots under. I mean that was easy.
What, was it 4.5?
4.5. That was
yeah, I thought did win 5 games, but boy.
I got it. And then what bails me out every single year, and you can look it up, is the service academies always cover in the bowl games because A, those kids like to play, and B, they don't lose anyone to the NIL.
Right.
Unbelievable. So Army, Navy, thank you very much. The heat is still on here in Charlestown. I'm in Charlestown today. So it's all good.
Heat wave here. It's 55.
It's unbelievable. I'm loving it. All right. So I have 2 I'm going to take 2 shout outs again.
Sure.
First shout out goes to my favorite NFL player besides Brady, Edelman, and Gronk. But I'll tell you what, Luke Kuechly, first, he's down to he's the first ballot Hall of Fame guy. I am just so grateful that the NFL recognized that he had a short career because of concussions. And Danny, he is not only a great player. He's incredibly bright, but he's a great guy as well. Nico's buddies, his roommates at Columbia played at St. X in Cincinnati. So Nico got to meet him. And so he is just the greatest guy. So my shout out goes to Luke Kuechly. And then I have a second shout out. You ready?
Fire.
This shout out goes to the 2048 WNBA first round draft pick. I've already bet it on DraftKings.
Nice.
Yep.
CC Pappas. My new granddaughter, Dan.
What you say? Guard or forward?
She's 85th percentile in height.
Yeah.
And listen, my daughter-in-law Molly, All-American high jumper at Wheaton College.
Beautiful.
Wow.
I mean, like legit, like she's like, so she can jump. She'll be tough like Nico. She's gonna be down there like this.
Elbows.
Danny, just like the BNBL when you were playing back in Brighton in the BNBL.
I don't know what you're talking about there.
Yeah, I know. You know. So my shout out goes to my little girl, CC.
Congrats, man. Congrats.
Thank you, buddy.
You're breaking the trend now. The Pappases were known for boys.
I know. We got a girl. It's been great. I love little girls. It's all good. Let me tell you something. I love you guys. I love our show. This is great.
Absolutely.
Hey, we didn't get canned after 1 full year. We're unbelievable. All right. Hey, 2025, we're going to transition to a little basketball, which is going to be amazing.
Happy New Year, everyone.
Happy New Year, guys.
Great.
All right, buddy.